Hey guys, I've got an update with some interesting information that I found out about, and I'm just gonna share it with you guys. It's come to my attention through a comment on another video, not even on my channel, that an LLC called Another Quest was opened a month and a half prior to the launch of THJ. And I'm not big on THJ. I only know that because I searched the hero's journey here, and this was a post on Project Quorum. Greeting heroes of Quorum. We're invited to share some exciting information with you. There's a new server launching next Friday, the hero's journey, launching November 1st. So the hero's journey launches November 1st. Here's the page with the information on the Another Quest LLC. Date filed 9/18/2024. So it was filed about a month and 12 days or whatever prior to the launching of the Hero's Journey server. Now, what gives me the idea, besides the title Another Quest, that it is even connected to the Hero's Journey server, is when I scroll down here, title manager, authorized member, Takahashi Christopher M., who is one of the developers of the Hero's Journey. Now, I actually did not know that first, so I just typed this name into Google, and it came up with an interesting post about how Krish Takahashi was a developer at Bethesda who worked on their new game Starfield, which I played and I enjoyed it for a good while. And then, but I was like, well, I wonder if the developers of THJ are like using him to register an LLC. But then I scrolled down and I saw an article in Reason magazine where it says that a court rejected sealing in TRO and EverQuest lawsuit, and it's speaking specifically about the lawsuit that we are talking about now. And this is, of course, why we all are aware of the lawsuit, is because of the rejects of the sealing. From Daybreak Game Co. Per the complaint, Daybreak owns intellectual property. Daybreak attempted to seal the case, so it was Daybreak who attempted to seal it, in order to prevent the defendants from learning of the proceedings prior to the service of and execution of any temporary restraining order. Okay, so yeah, then it lists here, Daybreak alleges that defendants Christopher Takahashi and Alexander Taylor. And I suppose everyone else knew as soon as they heard the name Takahashi that it was him. I did not. I don't know very much about the hero's journey at all. So why is this relevant at all? Well, it's relevant because there's a question about whether or not they were actually making any money with the hero's journey, or whether they were just taking donations to cover the server costs. And while it certainly doesn't necessarily mean that they are a for-profit business, it certainly can be an indicator as such. Just to get a better idea of it, I asked DeepSeek AI, can you tell me in less than 150 words why someone would open an LLC? And opening an LLC, a limited liability company, offers several key benefits. Number one, limited liability protects personal assets from business debts and lawsuits. So, preparing for a potential lawsuit, it sounds like it could be one of the reasons. Tax flexibility, can be taxed as a sole proprietorship, partnership, or corporation. Credibility, simplicity, flexible management, ideal for small businesses, freelancers, and startups seeking liability protection without corporate complexity. And then I proceeded to ask DeepSeek, because I don't know that much about business. Maybe it's just the normal run of the thing for an emulator creator to start an LLC for handling, the run-of-the-mill donations for the server maintenance. And I'm not saying that's not the case here. I just think this is an important piece of information for those who are even thinking about, were they after making money with their emulator? Was that part of it? And I know for lots of people who are in love with THJ, they're like, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them. Like, the reason that Daybreak is after them is because they got too popular and they're just jealous, and Daybreak is ruining EverQuest. Someone even said in a comment, Daybreak doesn't deserve EverQuest. And, so THJ does, because they're doing such an awesome job. And even if all of that were true, I don't want to keep saying the same stuff I say over and over again, but even if all of that were true, or is true, let's say, and Daybreak is so horrible and they're ruining EverQuest, and THJ created the most unique, awesome experience of EverQuest, is so wonderful. Um, I still don't like how they put all the other emulators at risk and didn't care about how this might affect them. And I'm still a little iffy on how they might be making some money through it. And a lot of people seem to think that they're not, but that's what we're talking about right now. Are they? So I asked them, if you're running a nonprofit game server, an LLC I asked, if you're running a game server for no profit, would you open an LLC? Maybe just as a safe business measure. And DeepSeek said, if you're running a nonprofit game server, an LLC could still be useful for liability protection, shielding personal assets if someone sues over server issues. So perhaps that's all it is. Perhaps it's just protection in case of the event while they're pursuing their idealistic server that's simply for love of the game, um, and to provide a fun experience. They just want to make sure that, if Daybreak gets salty, they have some protection of their personal assets. However, if there's no income or business activity, the cost in fees might not justify it. You could use a DBA. If branding matters, get liability insurance for cheaper protection. Operate as a sole provider if risks are minimal. Blah, 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 blah. So, anyway, I think the important thing for me is the attitude of THJ's developers and creators towards the emulator community. And I think what you got to realize is that the emulator community exists tacitly by the good grace of Daybreak. Daybreak is totally aware of their existence and allows them to continue to operate. And there's kind of like an unspoken but well-known set of parameters to that, like not trying to advertise yourself all over the place, in EverQuest social media, like on live server stuff, not always being like, come to this emulator, constantly trying to pull from their player base, not doing real money trading. And the people who run emulators, they usually, for at least in my experience, they're usually there's they're aware of Daybreak's legal control of the IP, and they are deferential and respectful towards Daybreak. You have P99, who started out illegitimate but sought an agreement with Daybreak after some years. Quorum has always been clear that it supports Daybreak. It encourages its players to go hop on the TLP. It does not want to make a single cent off of the game. And I think they take. I don't know if there even is a venue for donations, but I think it's more like people know it's all going into server costs. Um, so yeah, I kind of just wanted to share this information. I don't want to make this a long video. We have discovered that there's an LLC a month and a half prior to the launching of the server created by the owner, and this could imply that it was from the beginning a business enterprise. And I want to give you a thought experiment. People who love THJ and they're so angry about me putting out these videos that seem to be like always on the opposite side. I want you to participate with me in a thought experiment for just a moment here. Okay, I'm pausing to try to get this as clearly as I can. Let's say we're not even talking about THJ. Let's say your friend comes up to you and he's like, dude, I think I've got this great idea for a server. It's gonna run the client of this game that like we love and everybody loves, but back in the day. And I'm gonna I'm gonna alter some of the code and make it like cool, and then I'm gonna have a little bit of real money trading and get some donations. What would your reaction to that person be? Like, you haven't tasted the experience of THG being so wonderful, right? and you're not really taking into consideration is like, oh, the company that runs that game is so horrible. Because these are the if you take out these variables that a lot of THJ supporters are I think it makes it so that THJ developers can do no wrong. It's like, first of all, they created such an amazing experience, and second of all, Daybreak is horrible, horrible, right? So let's take just to see the perspective of others. Take those two variables out of the equation with this little thought experiment. Your friend comes up to you about a game, let's say StarCraft. I don't know, right? He's like, dude, I'm gonna create a StarCraft emulator. You're gonna access StarCraft through Steam, but then you're gonna we're gonna patch it with our patcher, and then you're gonna play on our own servers, and you don't have to pay a cent. Let's pretend like StarCraft had a servers you had to pay for monthly. You don't have to pay a cent, and but there'll be some like real money trading just for like little things that like you don't even need, and we'll accept donations. How would you feel about hearing about that real money trading, or even about the entire endeavor? I don't know. Like, let's bring it back to EverQuest. Let's say it was EverQuest, but it wasn't THJ, and someone said they are gonna have any dimension at all of real money trading in their emulator. Like, if it wasn't THJ, how would you feel about that? I don't feel like I'm I'm getting the best example to get this across, but I hope you get the idea. Okay, but that example is just covering one dimension, and that's the dimension of like between Daybreak and legality and THJ. But there's a more important dimension. I'm having trouble thinking of an example to get the idea across, so I'm just going to say it straight out. Like, P99 has existed for a good long time. Quorum, uh, longer than THJ, significantly, and a bunch of other servers. And when you create a server, you enter into the space with these other servers. And we're all existing by the grace of Daybreak. Whether or not Daybreak is good, kind, or worthy. Some people I've seen say Daybreak is not worthy of EverQuest. Whether or not any of that is true, the reality of our existence is we have to coexist with them having legal control over the IP. And so there's already a pre-established community, a tradition, if you will, that where with a set of communal standards and rules that allow us to continue to operate. And one entity comes in and they seem to have no regard for that community's standards and thereby have no regard for that community. It's an unspoken rule that you don't you don't even really want to make any money at all, and even donations to support the server, it's like it's a little icy ground. But when you introduce any dimension of real money trading, you've crossed the line right there. It's also kind of an unspoken rule that if you happen to if the bear happens to wake up because of you and look at you, you better you do what you can to patch things up with that bear. And like, I had a commentator, let me pull up the comment and show you. It's a nice guy, but I think his perspective is illustrating where I think the disconnect between people who are in love with THJ and people like myself is coming in. Okay, here it is. Um, I was saying in one of my replies here, let's open up. Why am I not seeing all these replies? Hold on. Okay, so in this particular thread, right? Oh gosh. Somebody said, would you be mad if THJ made it through this and was able to keep running, but Daybreak Games shut down all other EMUs to prevent it from happening again? I said, I think that would be the pinnacle of what would make me mad. Is that not obvious? And then this user replies, if I wanted to assume how you would feel, I would agree. But I prefer to assume as little as possible. Like, I don't know. I guess he just wasn't listening to like he didn't understand where I'm coming from. Still, that's part of what I'm trying to get to. Is people don't even understand where I'm coming from. I do hope the best for all servers. This is a PR nightmare. So then later down the thread, Wesker jumps in here because I was saying, um, that they should have surrendered. because even if they think they can win, they should surrender to Daybreak because Daybreak has the IP, and it's not because I so care about the law, and it's not because I so care about Daybreak. It's because I care about the EQ emulator, the ability to have EQ emulators at all. Because Daybreak is the IP controller of EverQuest, and they do have the law on their side, and they can drop the hammer on us at any point. So if you cared not only about your own server, but about EQ emulation, when you bring the beast at you, if you happen to have yourself all set up so that you're going to get through it, oh, look, we changed the code enough and we've got a good lawyer, and what else? I don't know. We got an LLC. Like, that's great for you, but don't you realize you're ruining it for everybody else? Like, does that? And I know for a lot of TH people, they can't even think about that. One, a good deal of them were they came to EverQuest, they say, for THJ. They weren't in the EQ emulator community. They have no sense of it. They don't really care about it. They just care about THJ. So they think they're going to win. They're sure of victory. And Wesker is asking, if you're sure of victory, why would you surrender? That could be what they are thinking of, or it could be something totally different. Now that I reread that comment, I think I might have been unfair in my response. Maybe I should edit my response. I don't think he's seen it yet, because I thought he was coming from that perspective. He says, but that's what they could be thinking. But this is my reply to people in THJ that I'm going to say it again. I feel like I've said it 10 times, but I still feel like people don't get it, judging by the comments. You surrender because there are others in the emulator community that will be impacted by you monetizing the IP of Daybreak to any degree. And some people are still arguing about me whether they're making any money at all from the server. They have an LLC. They have real money trading. You can defend that all you want. You can say, well, they didn't push it in my face. They're doing it very like gracefully and nicely. They're not like really pushing it on me, but they're still making money. Like when you have a big player base, you don't have to push it to make money. Especially when there's some people out there with deep pockets that are just gonna like, when they join, they want to give money, so they're gonna buy all the stuff they can buy. They're gonna spend a bunch of money. You know, it only takes an elite few to spend hundreds of dollars a month, each month to like, when you got like, was it 6,000 players? So yeah, they're not making bank, which is almost making it worse. Like, why cross into real money trading? But anyway, it's probably just because they're popular anyway. The real crux is how they responded. They didn't surrender. That's my point. They didn't surrender. When Daybreak said stop, they did not. And that's putting everybody else at risk. That's my point, really. You surrender because there are others in the community that will be impacted. All the other emulator servers, that's who these others are, that have been there long before THJ, which are operating by the good graces of Daybreak, allowing them to, as long as they don't cross certain lines and they show some deference. So imagine that you're Daybreak. For years, you tacitly decide to allow, because you know about these servers, right? For sure. But you allow them to exist. You don't interfere with them. You think they're not causing harm. They're not trying to make money off the game or edge in on our profit margin, really. They're just trying to have their unique experience, and they love the game. And so, whatever, you know. But then, one of those servers gets huge, and you find out that they're real money trading. And you find out that they started an LLC before they even started up the server. And you ask them to stop, and they don't care. So you drop a lawsuit on them, and they lawyer up, and they tell you, we're going to win. What do you think your attitude is going to be towards emulator servers after that? What do you think is going to happen to the emulation community? You're going to be like, wow, look at, we allowed these emulators out of, we didn't have to. And then look what happened. One of them just gets huge, takes a bunch of player base, and then even makes some money off of it. Now they're making money off of it, and they're just ignoring us. And when we sue them, they think they're just gonna win. Like, obviously we cannot allow emulators, right? Like if your Daybreak, is that not what they're being pushed to do? Like THJ is done exactly nothing to try to minimize the damage to the rest of the community. They don't care. Um, that's my biggest thing. So I just said in the beginning I was not going to go on a big rant like this again, and I did. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to share that for those of you who are not THJ could do no harm and are actually wondering about how much of a business was it. Well, there's an LLC created before the server even dropped for it. Doesn't look good for me. To me, it looks like it was intended to be a little cash operation the whole way. Not a huge one, just a little one. It's fun and we can make a little money. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were planning for this moment the whole way through. Like, oh yeah, we'll change the code enough. We'll try to set things up so that when Daybreak tries to shut us down, we can keep ourselves get through it unscathed. What about the other emulators? What other emulators? Like whatever, you know. Anyway, guys, see you when I see you, and I have something else.